Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today on our YouTube channel for this special announcement with our special guests. And one of those special guests that's with us today is our Honorable Minister of Labor and Member of Parliament for Hamilton West, sorry, Ancaster Dundas, Philomena Tassi, who will deliver some remarks on behalf of the Government of Canada. So, Philomena Tassi, it's on over to you.
Well, thanks, Your Worship. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm joining you virtually from Hamilton on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples within the territory covered by the Upper Canada Treaties, as well as the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. The project itself that we are speaking about today is on the land of the traditional territory of the Six Nations of the Grand River of the Haudenosaunee. So it's a pleasure to be with you this morning on behalf of my friend and colleague, the Honorable Catherine McKenna, Minister of Infrastructure and Communities. And look, we know that these are unprecedented times. Canadians and people around the world have been impacted by COVID-19. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Canadians have shown great solidarity, made sacrifices, and done their part to limit the spread of the virus. And while the situation is evolving, all levels of government in Canada are taking decisive action now to support communities and families. We are taking action to create jobs and economic growth, to build a cleaner, more sustainable communities, and to make sure that everyone gets their fair shot at success as we build our way out of this health and economic crisis. And that's why I am so pleased today to announce that the federal government is contributing $399,960 to the restoration of the Griffin House National Historic Site in Hamilton. Built in 1827, Griffin House is an important cultural and historical landmark of Black settlement in Upper Canada. It was owned by Aneros Griffin, a Black immigrant from Virginia, who was likely born a slave but settled as a free man in Canada in 1834. The home remained in his family for 154 years. This project will restore the interior structure and finishes, as well as major components of the building's exterior, including foundation, siding, windows, roof, and chimney. Additional improvements to the pathways and the installation of porch ramps will make the building accessible to all visitors. And we know that this investment will result in an increase in the number of visitors. Griffin House was designated a National Historic Site in 2007 through Aneros Griffin, a Black immigrant from Virginia who settled in Canada in 1834 and is associated with a Black settlement in British North America during the first half of the 19th century. By investing in great historical and cultural landmarks like this, we are not only helping raise awareness of Canada's Black diverse history, we are also building more inclusive communities. And Hamilton, we know, has a long-standing and historic Black community, which has contributed enormously to our city's economic, cultural, and social life. Hamilton was the place that Lincoln Alexander was elected and thrived. Hamilton is the place that finally elected its first Black councillor, my friend Matthew Green. Hamilton is the home to literary giant Lawrence Hill, one of our greatest novelists, memoirists, and essayists. Relatively recently, McMaster University had its first Black Student Union president, Mr. Chuki Ebe. I have been thrilled to attend the John C. Holland Awards and witness the achievements of our Black community recognized in all spheres. Our Francophone community in Hamilton is a model of the amazing things that can happen when Black people are fully integrated into a cultural identity. I have had the joy of participating in a fabulous Francophone African cultural event each of the last few years. As well, I've seen the amazing demonstrations of solidarity and pride expressed during the Journée de la Francophonie. The pandemic has offered us an opportunity to think about what really matters in our communities, engage in meaningful conversations about taking care of those around us, and reflecting on the kind of future we all want to build. Together, we will build a fairer and more resilient Canada that works for everyone. The Government of Canada is working closely with municipalities, provinces, and other partners and stakeholders to get projects built quickly, projects that make a positive difference in the lives of Canadians in these very trying times. Infrastructure allows people to live healthier lives. It helps grow business. It keeps communities connected. And with the health and economic challenges presented by COVID-19, building healthy, inclusive, and resilient communities has become more important than ever. And that's why we've expanded our infrastructure program under Investing in Canada plan and introduced a COVID-19 resilience funding stream worth over $3 billion. It will make it easier to invest in pandemic resilient infrastructure projects like retrofitting schools to allow kids safely attend classes, or upgrading hospitals and long-term care homes to facilitate compliance with social distancing requirements. Immediate and different investments in public infrastructure are needed now to build up, to address health risks, to create jobs, and to make healthy, resilient communities. Here in Ontario, we've invested over $8 billion through our infrastructure plan in more than 2,700 projects across the province. Projects that are strengthening communities where you live, work, and raise your families. This is critical to our country's recovery as we move forward and build our future. Together, we will build back better and improve the well-being of all Canadians. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you for all of the hard work that your government doing in these unprecedented times. So, you know, the challenges are great. The need to support individuals and businesses in our community is great, and your government has stepped up in very significant ways to do that, and it's very much appreciated. And although never perfect, you know, there's always more to do. But the reality is that so far we are finding our way through this pandemic, hopefully towards a vaccine that will help inoculate our citizens and get us back to building back better, which I absolutely adore as a phrase. So thank you for that, and thank you for this investment. This matters. You know, our Black history in this community is significant. It needs to be celebrated and certainly demonstrated, and certainly Griffin House does that in many different ways. So this investment that we're going to share is going to do that in very significant ways, and it's going to employ some people in terms of the work they need to do to make this work happen. So all of it a great fit to how we're going to continue to respect our history and at the same time build up our economy. I'd like to turn to now our Donna Skelly, the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation, Trade, and member of our Provincial Parliament representing Glanbrook, to deliver some remarks on behalf of the Province of Ontario, who is also a funding partner in this project. Donna Skelly.
Thank you, Mayor Eisenberger, and also good morning to Minister Tassi and to everyone who is joining us this morning. I am pleased to be here today on behalf of my friend and my colleague, Laurie Scott, who is Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure, to announce that our government, is investing more than $330,000 to support the restoration of the Griffin House National Historic Site. In addition to restoring the interior of the museum, our investment will also make the building accessible to all visitors. Improvements will be made to the pathways in addition to the installation of porch ramps. This work will make it possible, I'm just going to find this. This work will make it possible for Ontarians to explore the 19th century home and learn about the history of its owner, Earls Griffin, a Black immigrant from Virginia who settled in 1834. The Griffin House offers Ontarians the opportunity to learn about Black history in North America during the early years of the Underground Railroad as Black slaves fled from slavery. The Griffin House has stood in Ancaster for 150 years, and today it celebrates the long-term settlement and freedom of Black Canadians. I am thrilled to see that investments are being made to preserve this historic site. These important upgrades will improve accessibility while restoring the heritage features of the house for many years to come. Our more than $330,000 investment will help the City of Hamilton further celebrate its diverse culture and history. Supporting cultural and recreational infrastructure projects like the one we're announcing today helps to make our communities stronger and, of course, more inclusive. Through ISIP, we are investing $30 billion in joint infrastructure funding for communities across Ontario over the next 10 years. This includes $10.2 billion from the provincial government. We are rebuilding the economy and creating healthy and safe communities across Ontario through our federal-provincial partnerships. I would like to thank Mayor Fred Eisenberger for putting this project forward and our federal counterparts for your collaboration. Together, we can continue to make investments like this one possible. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Donna, for those great comments. And again, the province in partnership with the federal government has been doing outstanding work getting us through this pandemic. I have nothing but admiration for the work of the Premier and the government and your work to ensure that we continue to not only invest in projects like this, but invest in individuals and businesses that are struggling at this moment in time and getting us through this pandemic. And of course, the long-awaited vaccine that is the topic of the day in terms of how that's going to roll out and ultimately protect our communities. So thank you for all that great work, and we really appreciate the partnership to help restore this significant historic building in the city of Hamilton. And I know that it'll stand the test of time for future generations to understand and appreciate the Black history in our community, the Underground Railroad, which is not often talked about, but should get a lot more attention in terms of the great work that Canadians did and Black community in Canada did to help their friends across the border find safety and freedom in Canada. And a lot more of that history should be shared with future generations. So we look forward to doing that. And this building and this restoration of this building will absolutely help in that endeavor. So thank you both for those great investments, and we look forward to working collectively together to make it happen. The City of Hamilton, by the way, is also investing $266,000 as part of this project. So collectively together, it's almost $1 million project that will really bring this facility into a good state of repair for many generations to come. Now, on that note, stay with us, please, ministers and MPP Skelly, because we may have some media questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to direct us in terms of the media questions. And Michelle, take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Eisenberger. We'll now go to our media partners who are with us this morning. A reminder, it is one question and one follow-up. First question comes from Joey Coleman with the Public Record. Joey, please go ahead.
Greetings. So this, of course, this funds come from infrastructure money. What type of negotiations are underway right now between the two ministries of infrastructure involving our local members of parliament in regards to light rail transit and transit in general?
I can tackle that. I know that the ongoing discussions happening between the province and the federal government in terms of what next steps might be. You'll know that the private sector has been engaged in that, and the Premier the other day did indicate that in his belief the LRT will be built one way or the other, and he's had a very positive disposition to helping the City of Hamilton make the project happen. So I don't have any more details than that at the moment. I know it's an active discussion, and that's what we hope will result in an ultimate coming out for the province of Ontario and the Minister of Transport with a recommendation as to specifically what direction they're going to take on this particular and very important project for the City of Hamilton.
If I may, I just add a couple of comments. Joey, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope that you're keeping well. And thanks for that question. So a couple points I would make. You know, our government in terms of infrastructure generally has made unprecedented commitments. So 180 billion over 12 years. And part of that is the transit piece, also social and green. And so we have always made clear that we are going to support projects that are recommended and put forward by local governments. So I have always stated that, with respect to the city proposing this particular project and advancing it, And if the province is on board as well, then I will continue to go to bat to get those funding dollars to Hamilton. I will say that we have a real champion in Minister McKenna, my friend and colleague. She has been advocating strongly in terms of getting infrastructure dollars out the door. We know this is the perfect time. We want jobs now, and we want to create those jobs. So I will continue to work with her in order to ensure that we can get as many funding dollars as possible here in our community. And thank you for the question.
Mayor Eisenberg, if I could just jump in, and nice to see you again, Joey. Although I think that's just the picture. But as you know, we are awaiting the final technical report from the Ministry of Transportation. But as Mayor Eisenberger pointed out, the provincial government is committed to providing $1 billion to the city of Hamilton for transit. And the Premier confirmed that we will continue with that commitment moving forward.
Follow up?
No follow-up.
Great, thank you, Joey. Next question is from Kevin Werner at Hamilton Community News. Kevin, you can go ahead.
Good morning. Yes, I just with regard to the announcement, how was this project identified as a top priority, and when is the renovations going to be beginning?
Thank you. So this is part of an application process for the first, I believe, $500 million fund that was put forward for projects in communities, and we identified this. This has been on the books, I think, for quite some time in the city of Hamilton, and the opportunity to put this partnership together just came about, and so the funding will flow, I believe, imminently. And we'll begin the planning process and actual construction and development of that project as soon as possible. I can't give you a date and a timeline, Kevin, right now, but if I know that Public Works and the project procurement folks will have those specific answers for you, and I'm happy to get those for you.
So Kevin, if I could just add, thank you to you as well for joining today. I don't see you now, but I did see you at the beginning, so it's great to see you. The monies that we spend in infrastructure, it goes back to my my response to Joey. We will support what local initiatives prioritize and the province approves. So it's really municipalities that come up with what their priorities are. They provide those lists to the provincial government, and then the provincial government says, here are the projects we want to approve, and then sends that list to the federal government, and then we work together. So it's really a collaborative approach that we are taking. There's a split in the proportion of the funding. I think it's 40%, 33%, and then the rest with the city. So really everyone working together to support projects that make sense to local communities.
Follow up?
Yes, and it's on another issue. I just want to know if you, Mayor, have been discussing with your federal with the minister about the vaccine rollout, and when and if Hamilton should be receiving the vaccine?
Thanks for that question, Kevin. Not on the federal side. We certainly leave that to the province and the Premier to work on the federal side. But we did have a mayor's get together with the Premier and General Hillier a couple of days ago, outlining exactly their three-step process in terms of getting that vaccine out into the broader community as it's delivered from the federal government. So as you know, the federal government will receive the vaccine on behalf of the nation and then disperse through to the various provinces, and then the provinces will have their process in terms of how they get that to the appropriate storage facilities for this particular early on virus, and then how they then start to administer that in a three-phase process. And three-phase process, as we were advised by General Hillier, is going to take us well in through to 2021, but could start in the next couple of weeks, specifically with long-term care residents and staff initially, and then roll out from there to Indigenous communities, isolated Indigenous communities where the caseloads are extremely high. So obviously starting with where we see the incidence of COVID spread and problems highest, and working down from there. So one might expect that the general population, as we were told by the general, might see a general vaccination start sometime the middle of the year.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Eisenberger. Your next question goes to Bobby Herstova from CBC Hamilton. Bobby, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My first question is, this is a nice investment. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to see this work being put into the Griffin House. But many members of the Black community have been rallying in front of City Hall, among other places, for more free permanent housing. And so I'm just wondering, why aren't we hearing an investment into free permanent housing from the federal government, from the province, when the city has been trying to do this? You've got demonstrators asking for it. I mean, is the Griffin House more of a priority than, free permanent housing?
I'll start with that, Bobby. Thank you. And you know what, significant monies are going into, housing. I'm not sure where free housing came from, although the subsidized or affordable housing is certainly something that we continue to work on, and something the homeless shelters expansion that is underway right now is certainly also something that has generated significant funding. And so I think I delivered to you the other day, to all media, that in Hamilton over the last 6 years we've spent on average about $120 million for affordable housing and shelter and homelessness. That's each and every year. So over the last 6 years, almost $750 million, almost $1 billion. So there's no shortage investment, but more is required. And the good news is that just recently the federal government delivered $10.4 million to the city of Hamilton for some immediate infusion of dollars for some immediate projects that have to be done within the year. And so, as all municipalities are, we have a multitude of issues happening in our community. All of them require attention. Right now, we also have, infrastructure work that needs to go on and go forward. This is, in my view, considered to be infrastructure that we have that needs to be maintained and nurtured. And we have employment issues that have to be addressed, as well as we want to maintain the economy and keep people working. And so this project fits all of those parameters. We have lots of other activity going on the housing front, and that will continue. And we certainly anticipate the national housing strategy coming forward from the federal government to do even more, and that's certainly on the horizon as well. So I don't pit one project against another. They're all important. Right now, homelessness and housing is getting an unusual amount of attention, as it should, and that will continue.
If I could just jump in, Mayor Eisenberger, and I think the mayor is absolutely right. There are many projects that people support, and the three levels of government have, I think, been working very well together to address as many of those requests as possible. But I just wanted to point out yesterday, from the provincial perspective, our government announced $47 million, and this was just yesterday, towards providing supportive housing for individuals with severe mental health and addictions challenges who are either homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. So we continue, this is part of a $176 million overall investment for housing to enable people. It's part of our roadmap to wellness. So while today we are focusing on something that is very important, protecting heritage sites, we have not neglected. It's just part of an overall government strategy to provide funding to the different needs of various municipalities across the province.
If I could add as well, Bobby, thanks for that question. It's a really important question. So I'd say a couple of things. First, during COVID-19, vulnerable populations, really the light has been shone on some of the inequities and issues that we need to address as we move forward. And as a federal government, we absolutely have given dollars across the board, whether it was for not-for-profits, for shelters. Those investments were important investments to keep all Canadians safe and to keep them well. I agree with you that housing should be a top priority. And federally, we have made an unprecedented commitment of $55 billion in a national housing strategy. And so with respect to the COVID piece, we knew that we had to get money out faster. So there is that $1 billion commitment, $500 million for the municipality and housing stream, and then $500 million for projects based. Hamilton was I was very pleased to announce that we secured, I think it's 10.7 million with respect to the project stream. The city is working very hard to determine what projects are most priority. And I've also held, together with MP Bob Bertina, 2 symposiums on housing to bring partners all together so that we can work together to determine where are the greatest needs, and brought in PS Adam Vaughan in order to speak to these partners so that we could also access as much money as possible of the 500 million in the other part of the rapid housing stream. Moving forward, I want to say this. I, together with MP Bertina, am advocating hard and strong for funding dollars for Hamilton. And I look forward to being successful in that advocacy. And I look forward to making announcements here in Hamilton, I hope in the very near future.
Let me add as well that an appreciation for the Premier. You know, a few months ago, I put before the Premier a proposal for a couple of $1 million that would deal with the high acuity individuals in our community, which are the most challenging people to house and get into, get a roof over their heads simply because of the collection of issues that they face with and the challenges in terms of the supports that they require. And yesterday, the announcement, I'd forgotten about that, and I appreciate Donna reminding me that they did make a significant allocation towards that space, and it's an allocation-based program, and Hamilton will anticipate getting an allocation of some of those monies to deal with those very high acuity individuals in our community. Those are the ones that are generally spending time out in the tents in our city because they either can't be in a shelter or don't want to be in a shelter, or there aren't enough supports available for them to be in a shelter to be able to house them appropriately. So very important investment the province announced tomorrow, and we're certainly going to take advantage of that investment and put that into place in here in Hamilton.
Follow up.
Thank you very much. Mayor, you mentioned that there could be some jobs created of this because you're going to need people to make these repairs and these upgrades to the Griffin House. Could you talk, is there any idea of how many jobs this might create? What kind of economic stimulus, if any, this might have, or this might be?
Well, I think, thanks, Bobby. I think the investment itself is the economic stimulus, and what it rolls into is actual work and employment. I can't give you the breakdown in numbers in terms of how many people that will employ. There'll be a procurement process through this, but it'll require contractors to do repair work, add to the building as necessary, some inside and insulation work. All the things that are required to have this building stand the test of time and be a good interpretive center for the future. So I can't give you a number, but I know that our staff will have a fair idea of what it might take. And so I'll turn it to them if you want. I can get you connected to our public works procurement folks. They can give you a pretty good idea of what the employment numbers attached to this would be and what the economic benefits would be.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Eisenberger. So that concludes the media portion of today's event. Mayor Eisenberger, I will now hand it back to you for some closing remarks.
Great. Let me just thank Minister Tassi and MPP Skelly for ongoing good work and for being here this morning, just to outline what I think is one important investment among many other investments that we're going to collectively do, collaboratively work on to ensure that we maintain a good, strong economy while we're working through this pandemic and still have opportunities to reflect the important history of all of the peoples of the city of Hamilton. Today, specifically, our Black community and what it meant to have an underground railroad and someone working to bring people to safety from the United States to Canada. That's important history that will be reflected here, and your investment, your participation has made it happen. And we thank you for that. And we're hoping that you're going to have a wonderful day. Do you have any added comments that you want to share, Minister Tassi or Donna Skelly?
Not for me. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful time. If I don't see you, and I hope that I will, have a wonderful Christmas. And while we're
Stay safe.
broadcasting, we could say Happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish friends in our community. All the best. Stay safe. Be well. See you soon.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.